Teacher time management, adapting to asynchronous instruction. As an online instructor, time management can actually be deceptively difficult. The lines between working and not working can often be blurred. Many times, as an online instructor working from home, it barely even feels like you're working. At other times, it feels like there's about a million things going on at once, and you're not sure how you can do them all at the same time. In a traditional face-to-face setting, we follow the same cycle. We plan what we're doing the next day, we teach, and then we go and we grade the work from that day. And then we plan the next unit, and then we teach, and then we grade. If we look at the schedule on the left, you can see we actually spend most of our time teaching and a very small amount planning and grading. Since the amount of time we spend with students is set every day, our little bit of planning time is split between grading and planning. And sometimes, when the grading gets to be a little too much, we might find some shortcuts when it comes to planning. This idea kind of reminds me of a movie I saw when I was a kid starring Mickey Mouse. I then saw another version of it where the Muppets ripped them off. And then when I got to high school, I had to read a book where a guy named Charlie Dickens went and ripped off the same story. Anyways, so there's this Ghost of Lessons Past where we spend time on lessons that we've already done. We're grading student work, we're giving them feedback, we're contacting parents for students who didn't do work, we're remediating for students who weren't as successful, we're doing redos, and we're accepting late work with the Ghosts of Lessons Past. With the Ghosts of Lessons Present, this is where we spend most of our time in a face-to-face class, and this is where we're doing direct instruction. Sometimes we may have times after school or during like a one lunch where we're doing some tutoring, and in online we're doing a little bit of tech support. And then we have our Ghosts of Lessons Future, and this is where we're working on the lessons that are about to come. We're going to do our planning, we're going to figure out our pacing, we're going to post stuff, make sure the permissions are correct, we're going to find and create content to post, and we're going to collaborate with other teachers on what our learning targets are. Now here's where time management and asynchronous instruction gets difficult. In online instruction, the Ghosts of Lessons Past, Present, and Future all exist at exactly the same time. Even if there are synchronous sessions or office hours, a lot of online instruction ends up being done asynchronously. So if we look at this table of 6 modules, and a module somewhere between like a lesson or a unit, you can see that at any given time, you're actually working on 3 different modules at the same time. You'll notice that at any given time, you're implementing a particular module or unit with your students while you're planning the next one and you're remediating on the previous unit. You can see from this sample timeline that in a face-to-face course we spend much more time on the present and not as much time on the past and future. Whereas if we look at an online course, there's much less time spent with direct instruction and much more time spent with planning and contacting parents and grading and remediation. So let's look at our Ghost of Lessons Past. In an online format, this is where we end up spending a lot more time than we normally would in a face-to-face class. In a face-to-face class, you can usually just tell a student that they're missing work, but it's very easy for a student to avoid you in an online course. So you're going to spend a very large chunk of your time contacting either through phone calls or emails or text messages or Remind to make sure that both the parents and the students are aware of any work that may be missing. Now on to the Ghosts of Lessons Present. In a face-to-face class, students are receiving instruction at the same time and they tend to turn in work at the same time. However, in an online class, students can be in many different places all at the same time. Some students are going to submit work right after you post it. Some will submit it well before it's due. Many will submit it about 30 minutes before it's due. Some will submit it 30 minutes after it's due. And some won't submit their work until after you've contacted the parents to let them know they haven't done the work. If this were a pharmaceutical commercial, this would be where I start talking really fast and say that the size of these pie graphs will vary from class to class. And finally is our Ghosts of Lessons Future, and this is where you're going to spend a lot of time converting your face-to-face material into online-friendly material. Now we can see where time management can get awfully chaotic when you have things from the past, present, and future units all going on at the same time. When you're sitting at your computer, you might have an email of a parent that you're trying to contact about a previous unit coming in at the same time as a student who's doing work on a current unit, all while you're trying to plan for the next unit that you're going to post in the next couple of days. And this is where the time management piece becomes difficult, because you can get overwhelmed by having all three of these things going on at the same time. So my recommendation would be to make sure you block off your times of synchronous instruction, which are required, and then make sure you allow for a certain amount of time where you do planning and only planning, and a period of time where you do grading, and a time where you do parent contacts, and only those things. Because trying to do all of them at the same time, like on the diagram on the right, can be quite overwhelming. And since every lesson can be tweaked to be just a little bit better, you can do a little bit more parent contact, or you can grade the one more assignment as it's coming in. Make sure you put caps on each of your sets of times so that when the workday is done, the workday is done. And your work doesn't bleed into other times where you should be doing other things like spending time with your family or whatever else you happen to do with your time off. You guys love me. Really, you do.